Alright, hello everybody. It is Cramp Lord here, and I'm back with a year-end list here. It's the first time I've made a video in quite some time, but, I like to talk about movies, so I'm going to talk about movies, and I'm going to talk about my bottom 15 movies of the year from 2022, and I have seen 64 movies from 2022. And I am going to tell you what my least favorite ones were. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright, so the first film in my bottom 15 out of 62 movies, I watched 64, I bet, 64 movies this year, is Bruno Dumont's France. This is a film that I really knew nothing about going into. I watched it at the very beginning of the year, so my thoughts on it are a little, lost in time. But I just remember it being very boring. It was a satire, kind of critique, very allegorical to, surprise, surprise, the country of France, and just kind of how they are politically, socially, culturally, and I didn't really... I suppose if I understood it more, if I understood the allegories that I was trying to make, I would enjoy it more. But this just going into it blindly, it's just a slog. It is overly long. It feels at some points like the longest movie of all time. But yep. All right, next is X by Ty West. This is a movie that I wasn't even planning on seeing in the first place, but I kind of just bit the bullet and watched it anyway. The reason why I didn't want to watch it in the first place is because I'm actually a big fan of the period that this film portrays. That's kind of like the Wild West days of pornos, where you'd have directors like Gene Rollin and Jess Franco who made porno films to kind of fund their actual artistic visions. And a lot of those directors would go on to make horror films that were also very poetic and artistic and whatever. And I found it really obnoxious that A24 was producing a film that kind of, turns that whole concept into a novelty, just because that's what A24 does these days. They like had their own brand of movies, which, a lot of them can be fucking fantastic, but I just find the whole branding of, film just because of a production company to be just not okay artistically. And this film falls right into that A24 genre, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and I just find it to be incredibly obnoxious. Nothing about this movie is outstanding. It's just a basic slasher with the porno element thrown in. So yeah, not goated, not hyped. Yeah, fuck this movie. All right, so next on my list of not so greats is The Worst Person in the World by Joachim Trier. I don't think I'm pronouncing his first name right, but that is okay. A lot of people consider this a 2021 movie. It's 2022 for me, just because it came out for me this year. It came to a theater near me. And I find this movie incredibly annoying. I think the moral millennial fuckery of it all to be I find it to be incredibly disheartening, exhausting to watch. I think I understand why my Danish friend, not just him, but according to him, both Swedes and Danish people just hate Norwegian people probably more than they all kind of hate each other, just because as displayed by this movie, there's just a privileged, like, happy-go-lucky way of going about life where other people's, like, mental state and capacity is just completely disregarded for your own ego. And that's what's kind of on display here. And I don't find it quirky, and I don't find it relatable whatsoever. I think this is a fucking gross movie, and I find it incredibly just hard to watch because of that. Yeah, fuck this movie. Alright, now we have Bones and All by Luca Guadagnino. I think that's how you pronounce his name. This is just kind of it's an intriguing concept. That's why I went and saw this movie in the first place. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a very intriguing concept that was just kind of wasted. And I feel like this movie is just trying way too hard to appeal to younger audiences with the especially kind of like an alternative quote unquote audience. Just appealing to aesthetics, like having these really out of nowhere Joy Division and New Order needle drops when they're totally unwarranted. Yeah, it's just it just kind of blossoms into a boring romance that thinks it has a lot to say when it really doesn't. And I also find Timothy Cholula to still be one of the most boring up-and-comers there is. So, fuck him. Also, Mike Rylance's performance is ridiculous in this, but I kind of love it. So, there is that. Okay, next, we have another super early one from this year. I think this was the first movie I actually watched in 2022. And that is The Tragedy of Macbeth. I don't know. I just found this to be unnecessary. I thought it was gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but I don't think this really added anything of value to the story of Macbeth that's been told so many times, and I actually found this to be incredibly boring. It seems to be a theme with a good number of these movies in this list, but yeah, there's not really much to say about it, other than, yeah, I just didn't find it all that intriguing. Also, I forgot to mention that this film is directed by Joel Coen. Alright, next we have The Menu from Mark Malloyd, who is, in fact, British, which makes sense considering that this film is such a hyper-simplification of class that it's like really children goo goo gaga like type of shit. I mean, this is awful. Yeah, the allegories that it's trying to make here, the cute little gags and goops are just fucking stupid, eye-rolling, and damaging. Not in a dramatic way, but it's just like, if we just keep creating art like this that simplifies class down to like black and white elements, I mean, what the fuck are we doing here? Yeah, this is just fucking stupid. It's like the equivalent of a 14-year-old on TikTok dressed as like an anime character saying "Eat the rich," in their suburban household. So this is a dumb movie. Don't watch it. Okay, so bear with me here. My laptop is out of commission, so I'm having to use my phone to make all of this. And so right now you're watching the Terrifier 1 trailer, but I'm actually talking about Terrifier 2 by Damien Leone. And yeah, this was a hyped up, crowdfunded movie that was showing in multiplexes, which was pretty cool. I was happy to see that. But I mean, Jesus Christ, man, this movie sucks. I mean, it's like, yeah, the gore is pretty out there, but the movie is just so overly long and such a drag, and it thinks it's way better written than it actually is. Like, nobody gives a fuck about these main characters, man. And like, I heard so much like shit about how this movie is just so over the top with its gore and just be hard to watch, but really it wasn't even that bad. Like, I mean, it was well done. The gore was done fantastic, but I mean, it really didn't even go that far, or at least as far as I thought it was gonna go. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a shitty horror movie that has some cool elements, but that's about it. I do like that it was crowdfunded though. That I will give it the indie credit. Okay, now I have a few quickies here. My mom, it was her birthday, and she wanted me to watch this movie with her. She had seen it, I think, like 3 times already. She just wanted to watch it again. And I really had no, expectations going into this. I didn't know whether it was good or bad. I just knew that it was based on, like, a murder mystery book that was very reminiscent of, like, Nicholas Sparks, just because it takes place in the Outer Banks. There's, like, a romance. And, what's funny is that, I mean, first of all, this film looks nothing like the Outer Banks. It was filmed in Louisiana. And they get the locations of things, near the Outer Banks completely wrong. They keep mentioning Asheville as, like, the town they would go to buy things. That's like 4 or 5 hours away from where they're supposed to be. So, like, I don't know what the fuck they were doing with the writing here. It just seems like there wasn't a lot of care put into it. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a fart in the wind kind of movie. I didn't hate it. It's just like, alright, whatever. Also, it was directed by Olivia Newman. Oh fuck, it's Sonic. I gotta get my Chad voice. Hold on one sec.
Oh, yes, that's much better. So, yeah, one of my buddies is a big Sonic guy. I think he loves these movies mostly for the amount of, like, references that they throw in there, because they're chock full of them, not just from Sonic, but just, like, other pop culture, like, nerdy shit. And, one time I was hanging out with him, and he just kind of threw this on, and I ended up just watching the whole thing. Dude, some of these comedy bits in here, like, with the side characters are just so bad. They're so bad, and it's hard to watch, man. Also, Jim Carrey is so underutilized. Like, I feel like he was barely in this movie. Which is just such a shame considering this is the only shit that he does right now. Like, why is he only doing Sonic movies? I don't understand. It's fine, whatever. I mean, if this is your kind of thing, I mean, all power to you, but, I mean, yeah, you get it. Chat out.
Once again, I am limited in what I can use here as B-roll footage, but this is Intergalactic by Kid Cudi. I don't even know who directed it, but animated by the same people who did the Spider-Man movie, but I mean, it looks good, but the animation is terrible. I mean, look at how choppy it is right now. Shit sucks, but anyway. Oh yeah, and the fucking writing in this. I mean, usually I can be tolerant of Kid Cudi being corny because I genuinely like the guy, but this is too much, man. I can't handle this. It's so fucking bad. And, like, I feel like it's made for people who, like, have depression and notebook sketch about it and have a weed dependency. Like, this shit sucks. Ah, yes, the time has come to talk about the movie that everybody loves, and you just have to be the party pooper contrarian. Well, with Everything Everywhere All at Once by the Daniels, man, fuck, I am happy to be the contrarian here, because this is the very definition of cinema. That is cinema with a Z. Gen Z cinema. This is essentially just a Marvel movie with an A24 branding slap to it. And, you know, I had seen Swiss Army Man, so I kind of got the humor from the Daniels beforehand. But, like, they just ramped it up to, like, 11 and, like, non-stop, where it's like, I feel like this is like a TikTok movie. It's like, there's literally no room for any thought, and it just kind of trugs along. It does its thing. But at the end of the day, I mean, this film is corny as hell. You know, I'm fine with corny, but I hate it when a film just kind of throws a bunch of bullshit in front of you to make it seem like it's, saying something much more profound than it actually is. There's nothing added to it, to this film, with all of its little quirkiness and flashiness and all of the different universes and whatnot. I mean, nothing comes out of that at the end of the day. It's just the spectacle, and people are going all like drooly over it, and I find it incredibly annoying. I mean, unfortunately, this is what the future of cinema is going to be. It's like complete stimulation of the short attention span, and we have to make references and say a bunch of bullshit with pretty colors and for people to get any sort of message. I don't know. I can't do this. Okay, getting close to the end here. Next is Noah Baumbach's White Noise. Funny enough, with how low this movie is on the list, I actually don't hate this movie. It's just shit, and it knows it is. I mean, it recognizes its own pointlessness. And the movie is essentially, even though with how colorful it is, it's essentially white noise. Just with how overloaded it is with a bunch of bullshit about the past 2 years. And the thing about Noah Baumbach is that with this movie, he's kind of proven that he doesn't know how to write movies that aren't about himself and his own family dynamic. And so he kind of writes his own version of his experience with the past 2 years. And funny enough, he doesn't have anything interesting to recall, like anything like unique. He just kind of tells it in his own way, and it's like this movie was like obligatory for him to make, but why? I mean, he tries to do this whole like nihilist thing here, where like, nothing matters, blah blah blah, and then like he kind of just goes through that little psychology with his main character, and like, but the thing is that even when the movie is trying to be as nihilistic as possible, it doesn't even do a good job. Like, nihilists don't care this much, It's just death is death, and that's it. This movie has too much heart behind it for what it's trying to do. Sounds weird, and it sounds like a weird critique, but if you watch the movie, you kind of get an idea of what I'm saying. But yeah, I will say that my reaction to it is interesting, and I appreciate it for that. But other than that, this movie's garbage. Okay, next we have Master. This is written, directed by Mariama Diallo. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. This is another one of those films that's kind of come after the success of Get Out that uses horror as a vehicle to display kind of the internal feelings towards cultural, racial diaspora, or just racism in general. And here and there, I feel like it does, some things correctly, but this film kind of treats its audience like we're a bunch of retards. Like, it essentially, first of all, it hammers in the metaphors in the little, like, horror bits way too hard. Like, we get it. And then, on top of that, it has the audacity to basically explain the metaphors and the allegories that it's trying to make, like, outright, like, in the dialogue. And it's just like, what? Like, I could have put that together myself, and honestly, it would have made it a lot more, I don't know, chewable, if that makes any sense. But no, this movie just treats its audience like a bunch of idiots, and it gets so messy at the end, especially with its idea of race. Like, I don't know, like, there's one character in particular who says she's like a certain race, but she's not, and it gets really weird, and the racial politics in this just seem kind of mean-spirited, but I don't know. Was not a fan. Okay, folks, my second least favorite film of the year is by Andrew On. It is Fire Island. I had seen Andrew On's one of his previous films called Spa Night, and I was kind of shocked by how shallow the film was, considering the concept in it. Like, it seemed like it was on the cusp of going somewhere that was actually poignant, or you know, it seemed like it was on the verge of breakthrough, but it never got there. And then this film comes out, and I'm thinking, okay, Andrew On, you got this, boom. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I mean, like, Jesus fucking Christ, like, this seems like so damaging to the gay community, like, and I don't say LGBTQ plus, because this is like exclusively gay, and because it does that, it just, I mean, haven't we gone past like the early 2000s 90s era of like party gays, and like, you know, it's like a fucking stereotype, you know, from that era, and yet we're still making like shit like this to as like a representative piece of art. I mean, what the fuck, man? This shit is garbage. The narration, I mean, come on. The story at the center is just dog shit. Everything about this is just absolute dog shit. I'm sorry. This is fucking Nancy Pelosi cinema, man. And it's like going 5 steps backwards for just gay people. Like, fuck this movie, bro. Okay, folks, we have reached the end. I'm about to reveal the number 1, or should I say, the number 64 movie of the year. Wow, can't believe we made it this far. This is a film that I had both hype for, and I also had a very good feeling that it was going to be absolutely atrocious. It is a film that had been in the works for years and years, way before it even officially started filming. That is, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Uncharted movie, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Your favorite treasure seeker, Nathan Drake, is on the big screen by none other than Tom Holland. Tom Holland, you say? That's a weird casting choice, but you know, I can vibe with it. Who's gonna play Sully? Mark Wahlberg. That's weird. He looks and sounds and just, there's nothing about Mark Wahlberg that's like, so that's okay, fine. Maybe the movie itself can be decent. No, it's not. It's not. Oh, Antonio Banderas isn't. At least he can be just a fun villain. Oh, he's a fake villain, and he's barely in the movie. Oh, that's wonderful. Is there anything that's salvageable about this? No, not really. This is awful. This is dog shit. This might possibly be one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Now, I say that as a massive Uncharted fan, and I've been an Uncharted fan for a long time. So, yes, I have high expectations. And I have certain expectations for certain characters, but basically, the writer's idea and like their understanding of these characters is basically like, oh, Chloe is the girl that double crosses Nate all the time in Uncharted 2. Her entire character will just be double crossing. That's her whole character. There's no depth at all. This film fucking sucks, man. And I would have rather watched I would have rather watched Nolan North play retired Nathan Drake sitting on a couch for 2 hours and just talking about a bunch of bullshit. That would have been infinitely better than this garbage. Oh, I'm just glad I don't have to ever await something like this ever again. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. So this year, instead of just posting my top 15 and moving on, I'm actually going to go through all of the movies that I watched this year, and I'm gonna do a video in between me going to my top 15 movies year, and I'm just gonna list out and maybe talk a little bit about the movies in between and where they rank. So yeah, that's gonna be coming out next. Thanks for tuning in for another list, man. Peace.